Hello guys, and welcome back to yet another video. It is so good to see you again. In this video, I'm going to be reviewing your guys' lucid dreaming and astral projection stories. I asked you guys on the community tab of my channel for your best lucid dreaming and out-of-body experience stories, so we are going to be reading those today. Let's get into it. One of my favorites is where I decided to fly into space and onto another planet. When I arrived, I noticed the planet was a planet with desert terrain. My first thought was Mars, and I seen some human talking. All I could hear was them talking about blood and bones, and I got a weird feeling, so I decided to leave that planet and fly somewhere else. Interesting. As I flew off, I set the intention to fly off super far into the galaxy and closed my eyes. When I opened my eyes, I was on another planet, and this planet was super dark. I couldn't tell what terrain it was. I came across this little shadow being, and for some reason we joined hands and started dancing and started singing a song in unison in some other alien language. That's when I noticed some other being in a chair was watching us. It was some owl-like humanoid, human body but an owl head. It was just observing us, and I had the thought, he knows, and then I woke up. I feel it was an astral travel experience. That definitely sounds like an astral travel experience to me, because usually when I have an out-of-body experience opposed to a lucid dream, it is a lot more like alien-like and otherworldly. It's very, very hard to explain, but also I notice it's like far distant travels in an out-of-body experience, or I'm like in my actual house, and in a lucid dream I'm usually somewhere that I've never seen before. I'm usually like in some building, or I'm just somewhere that is not out in space or in my actual house. A lot of the time, like I told you guys, it's in some sort of school or some sort of formation of a school. But with my out-of-body experiences, for sure, they seem to be a lot more not eerie, but they have a lot more sensory information in them that isn't really present within a lucid dream. So for example, like when you're traveling to another planet or something, like one time I tried to fly to the moon in an out-of-body experience. I never got there, but the way there was very long and cold, and it was very dark, and a lot of the beings that I see in my out-of-body experiences, sometimes they don't really communicate, sometimes they don't have a body, they're more of an energy, or sometimes they just take on energy of like other forms of life, if that makes sense. It could look like an animal, it could look like something I've never really seen before, it could look like a dwarf or something. I don't know, it's very like spontaneous, I feel like, in most out-of-body experiences. So yours definitely reminds me of some of mine. Thank you for sharing. That's super, super, super cool. I used a binaural beats video and separated from my body. I couldn't see anything, so I said to myself, give me vision, and it worked. I said, give me clarity next, and it worked too. Then the first thing I did was I told myself that I want to see the earth and moon from space. I felt something like a whoosh and closed my eyes. When I opened them, I was in space looking at the earth and moon. My astral body snapped back into the physical one after that. See, another kind of like galactic spacey experience with an out-of-body experience, and I love that it was created or kind of induced from a binaural beats video. I've noticed that if I have some sort of like humming or like some sort of binaural beats or some sort of like white noise in the background, I can kind of anchor my awareness on it so I don't fall asleep as easy. So that really does help me in sleep paralysis. So I love that that worked for you, and the fact that you are using demands like give me vision or clarity now or something. That's something that William 𝘍𝙬𝙐 talks about as well, and that's something that I do in out-of-body experiences if I can't really see or I can't move. Sometimes you can have dual body awareness where you're you're conscious of the sensations happening to your physical body, so you may still feel sleep paralysis symptoms or sensations, but you're like out of your body still, so you can feel both kind of sensations happening. That sometimes tends to happen to me in my experiences, and it can kind of cause us to feel stuck or not have as much clarity or awareness that we need in order to kind of move around and see clearly. So demands are definitely key, even in lucid dreams, you guys. making a demand but believing it's going to work, because these experiences go down to our intentions and our beliefs. So if we say something but we're kind of expecting or believing something else, then that is what's actually going to happen. So when you give demands, you really have to believe that they are going to work, because these states are thought responsive. And sometimes you may notice that you can move around but you can't see, and other times you may notice that you're stuck in your body but you can see through your astral eyes, or you're seeing through your sleeping mask. And sometimes that happens to me before I fully get out of my body. I'll just see through my sleeping mask first. So you can also use demands at that stage when you're trying to get out of body. You can even just say out of body now, but you have to have your will and intention really fueled by that statement. Everything has to be in alignment when it comes to the demand you're saying or intending and what you actually feel and believe in that experience. But I think that is so cool. And sometimes the out of body experiences don't last too long. It's such a surreal experience. Sometimes that can overwhelm us, even subconsciously, and we can get snapped back to our body. But it's just those little moments where we experience something so profound that makes it all worth it. So thank you for sharing that. I've been trying to lucid dream for months and recently had my first and so far only lucid dream. I was falling from the sky, but I knew it wasn't real, and I was falling kind of slow. Before I hit the ground, I was suddenly standing inside a house. But what was really strange is that it was a cartoon house. I was in the cartoon house of Family Guy. I watched that show a lot. I couldn't believe I was inside a cartoon reality. I think I was too excited because that's when I woke up. So it was very short, but I knew I was dreaming while it was happening. I've been trying to AP even longer, but no success yet to share. That's only happened to me a couple times where I've kind of been inside of a cartoon reality, and it's kind of similar to a psychedelic trip that I had forever ago. Everything was kind of in this like cartoonish looking reality, and that's something that I've noticed, at least from my experience, differs from an out-of-body experience. I noticed that an out-of-body experience seems a lot more like realistic. If I check things in my room, they look the same. Titles of books that I have on my shelves seem to be stabilized and look the same, even consistently if I look away, opposed to what happens in a lucid dream. So there are some differences within the environment within a lucid dream and an out-of-body experience. Sometimes it's a lot more like something that you don't really expect within a lucid dream, but of course there's definitely things that are not expected in out-of-body experiences. But when it comes to the environment, I noticed that it's a lot more random within lucid dreams. I would definitely love to hear if you have had an out-of-body experience since you've sent this, or what you've kind of been practicing since then, because if we can kind of anchor lucid dreams and learn how to not only attain them but maintain them, we can kind of carry that skill into learning how to induce out-of-body experiences. So it's kind of learning two skills at once. My first and only astral projection happened spontaneously a couple weeks after my first acid trip. I was laying in bed and then shot out into the sky out of nowhere. I had a huge yellow light body and a shield and a sword. I could see the houses in my area, but they were all made of a dull green light. I shot down into a house unconsciously. I didn't decide to do it. There were two girls in a hallway and they screamed. All of this, I could only see a dull green lights, the hallways, and the girls, but I could sense their minds and emotions. I returned to my body almost instantly. I remember thinking that it felt so real, and I probably did manifest in a house and scare those girls, and started to think, I wonder what I looked like to them, to me. I was at least 9 to 10 feet tall, yellow, night-looking ghost, but who knows what would appear as in everyday eyes. So this is kind of funny because there is this YouTube channel called Phase Evolution, and he talks about out-of-body experiences he's had and how he has went into people's houses or just appeared in someone's house, and it seems very, very realistic, and you feel like you're not supposed to be there. It feels like very realistic. I remember him seeing someone in the kitchen, and she dropped what she was holding, and she kind of like screamed and was startled, and she said, "Who are you? Where did you come from?" Like a total realistic reaction to if someone just appeared in your house, or you think you see a ghost or something, but it just looks so real. Again, who knows what they saw, right? And kind of my theory on this, as far as if it actually happened and that was a real person that saw you and kind of perceived you as a spirit or something, I believe that it could totally happen in this 3D reality, but every single possibility is already being played out in another reality. So there's a trillion, like infinite versions of me doing this right now, but with slight changes. You know, every reality is going to be slightly different, but it all kind of appears the same. And since when we are having an out-of-body experience, we project to a different state of consciousness, a different frequency, I think that we are experiencing an overlapped reality. So if you were to go to a friend's house, for example, in an out-of-body experience, and you did appear in their room and they did see you and they were startled or something, or they were like, hey, is that you? You know, whatever reaction they had, again, it is possible that they are having that in the 3D experience, and of course you can follow up with them and ask them if they remember. But if they don't remember, I still believe that it could have happened just in an alternate reality. Once you kind of study a little bit of quantum physics, you'll understand what they mean by like overlapping realities. But think of a book. This is kind of how I thought of it. Think of a book, and every single page, every single side of a page is a reality, and they're all stacked on top of each other. So there are literally infinite versions of you being played out right now. And because energy cannot be created nor destroyed, the ideas we have about our future and things, that's already existing in an alternate reality. And of course, how we shift in that reality is matching our state of consciousness with that reality, and that's how we can do reality transurfing and reality shifting and manifesting and all of that. But when it comes to an out-of-body experience and actually visiting someone in their house, the question is, did it really happen or did it not? And I believe that, you know, we can shift between different kind of realities based on our state of consciousness, but it probably did happen in some sort of alternate reality with that person. So that's kind of my take on it. And again, Phase Evolution talks about his couple experiences with that as well. And I think it's such an interesting topic, especially to experience and, you know, experience firsthand, really. I was a snowman by a road while I fell asleep waiting for my bus in the morning. I was a snowman by a road while I fell asleep waiting for my bus in the morning. I decided to jump in front of a moving truck to wake myself up, but basically just exploded, and my view was trapped on ground level and I couldn't move. I just laid there and eventually did wake up. The snowman part totally threw me off guard. I had to read that a couple times to make sure that I got it correctly. The part where your vision was ground level and you couldn't move, that's what happened to me in one of the last out-of-body experiences I've had. Probably not one of the last ones. It was probably 5 or 6 experiences ago where I got out of my body, but my vision was ground level. It's like I didn't have a body at all. I was just eyeballs on the ground. I didn't have much control either. It was kind of like I was just like being whipped around. It was just my perception like being whipped around the ground of my room. That's the first thing that I thought of when I read your experience. So I'd love to hear like how that actually felt, if it felt very dreamy or if it felt, you know, kind of like an out-of-body experience, because I've never had a lucid dream where my perception was ground level, at least that I can remember, but out-of-body experience I definitely for sure have. I was in my home and a demon was chasing me down my halfway into my room. I go to bed in my dream, lay down and cover my head and body with my blanket. I'm convinced I'm dreaming, but I'm fully aware of what's going on. I feel something on top of me, putting pressure on me and thinking it's the demon. Eventually the pressure stopped when my dog got off of me and came to my face. At this point I was awake. I don't know at what point I stopped dreaming and at what point I was actually awake, but to me it was seamless. I know I must have been asleep at some point because demon, but it felt all so real. But after I was awake, I texted my friend what happened and had to constantly remind myself I was awake, asking her if she was real. Still scares me to think about to this day. So I love that you brought this up because this is a huge topic within lucid dreaming and out-of-body experiences, and your experience that you have was definitely due to sleep paralysis, and you were probably also half dreaming. Sometimes when we experience conscious sleep paralysis, we can tend to slip into the dream state and kind of wake back up in sleep paralysis. And sometimes we can experience both of those states at once. So dual body awareness. We talk a lot about that on this channel, but dual body awareness is where you are aware of your dreaming body and your physical body at the same time. And what happens when we experience conscious sleep paralysis, we are conscious of the physical sensations we have on the body, but our mind is half dreaming at that time. So we can actually dream in our physical environment. We can be laying there in bed, conscious of being in sleep paralysis and feeling those symptoms, but still our mind is dreaming and we can see those visual hallucinations in our environment, even though it's just because the mind is dreaming while part of the body is awake and part of the brain is awake as well. So what you're experiencing, those sensations, when we don't actually know what is happening during sleep paralysis, our brain is trying to rationalize what's happening and it's trying to make the most sense of what could be happening. So when you feel the pressure on your chest, that's because we don't need as much air when we are asleep, and because your body was asleep in sleep paralysis, you may feel your chest or your diaphragm slightly collapse because we don't need as much air. But when the brain doesn't know what's happening, it starts to make up these scenarios of, oh, I can't breathe, there must be someone suffocating me. And because we are half dreaming and half in sleep paralysis, we are in a thought responsive state. So the experience we're having is responding to our thoughts and what we think is happening to us. So because you were half dreaming and you were also in sleep paralysis and you started to feel those symptoms consciously, your brain started to try to create a dream story that went along with that. So I want to assure you there's absolutely no demon. This is something that is definitely kind of feared at first when first experiencing it. Sleep paralysis is completely safe. It is a natural part of our biology. We go into sleep paralysis 5 to 6 times every single night anyways, because we go into REM sleep 5 to 6 times a night, and that's just a symptom of being in REM sleep. We are paralyzed and our body is put to sleep when dreaming, so we don't physically act out our dreams and punch a wall or something. So this state is completely safe and our body goes through it every single night. But when we bring consciousness into it, we are not used to observing our body sleeping, and so we are not used to observing these changes that happen when our body is sleeping. So when you feel the pressure on your chest, when you feel the buzzing or the vibrating or you hear loud sounds, that is just symptoms of sleep paralysis, and you can change it with your thoughts. Once you're in sleep paralysis, you can also use it to induce a lucid dream or an out-of-body experience. But if you are ever in an experience where you want to just stop sleep paralysis, you just want to get to sleep, maybe you're just tired of it, then there is something you can do. The only thing that is not paralyzed during sleep paralysis is our eyes and our respiratory system. So we can actually use our breath to wake our body up. You pretty much just want to make a long hissing noise and you'll feel your diaphragm start to kind of collapse in. You're moving your diaphragm, you're letting your body know, hey, I'm actually awake. So you just want to make a long extended hissing sound, and you'll feel your diaphragm start to kind of collapse in towards your spine, and that will be enough to let your body know, oh, you know, you moved, you must be awake, and you'll be able to kind of get out of sleep paralysis from there. So I know that it seems kind of terrifying when you're first kind of learning about what's happening and you experience that firsthand, but I promise you it is just symptoms of sleep paralysis, and this is something that our body goes into every single night. We were just conscious of it and half dreaming because we were in waking sleep paralysis, but I assure you there is nothing to worry about there. When after becoming lucid, I saw a shadow hoodie person with no face, I asked, "Who are you?" and it just looked down at the concrete and walked away. That's interesting. Some people would see that and get terrified and probably run away, and that would be the start to a nightmare. But when we actually get curious about what's showing up in our dreams, it tends to react differently. Now, this part of yourself, it was definitely, since you were lucid, it was definitely an aspect of you. It was an inner archetype of some sort. It could be your inner fear, your inner anxiety, and that's great that you're asking questions, because sometimes the dream will actually respond to us and tell us what that specific dream character or that specific thing represents with us, and sometimes it just makes it just shows up in the dream. Its presence is there in the dream, but we don't necessarily interact with it. If you want to find out more about what that part of yourself is or what it's kind of representing, then you can just look back at that dream and observe the energy of that. Did you feel fear? What do you think that being was feeling? What did it seem like? What energy did they have? And you can kind of start to correlate a story based on different symbols and emotions that you notice from the dream. But if you experience something like that within a lucid dream, again, definitely keep asking questions and just ask them, what do you represent? And make sure to be open and loving, because everything that we experience within the lucid dream is an aspect of us, and it is wanting our attention, our acceptance, and just our love and we really just need to come at this in a curious way, and I promise you, you will experience something completely different than just your average running away nightmare, as long as you're getting curious and you're willing to be friends with whatever shows up within your dreams. Alright guys, and that is all for this video. Thank you so much for joining. If you like the content that I create on this channel, make sure to subscribe, and if you like sleep music, I did create a new sleep music YouTube channel just for the binaural beat sleep music that I've been creating on this channel. It is linked in my featured channels on my main channel, so go ahead and subscribe. It's just called the Lucid Mystic Sleep Music, so it should be pretty easy to find, and I will see you guys in the next video. And as always, I'm sending you endless love and endless lucidity.